I've spent a long time with the Rant series. Even ignoring the fact that each of these games is a fairly lengthy experience by itself, I spent hours and hours actively partaking in discussion about this series, writing scripts and creating videos for it, drawing the characters, hunting for merch on every site possible, and watching my hard-earned cash fly away from my bank account. You know, everything you could possibly imagine. So, naturally, as time progressed, I started to gain a more thorough interest in other I+II titles. More specifically, I was super curious about all of the titles directly tied to the Grand Rant universe in at least some sort of way. Stuff like Little Princess, Little Vampire, Kazu Island, but most notably, as you may guess by the title of this video, the Toushin Toshi series. So, during the last few months of 2025 and leading into 2026, my good friend Gray and I played through the first two Toushin Toshi games together. And you know what? To summarize it in a few words, it was a great bonding experience. So that leads us to now. I want to take this opportunity to ramble about these games for a bit, give myself a proper opportunity to reflect on them. I've wanted an excuse to cover more I+II games on my channel, and this seems like a good chance to do that, especially considering it's actually relevant to Rant's lore. Yay! So without further ado, let's just begin, shall we? Let me get this out of the way first. I think this game kinda sucks. For starters, exploring the dungeon just kind of fucking sucks. Each of the dungeon floors just range from being pretty boring to actively unfun. I am willing to accept my fair share of skill issue, but holy shit, some moments just really pissed me off. For example, the various traps made me crash out pretty hard at times. Particularly the floor with the tiles that make you slide back down to the previous floor, resets your progress on that floor you were just on, sets you to 1 HP, and makes you crawl back up and deal with extra encounters just for the love of the game. It felt even worse when I'm trying to progress, but oops! I tapped up just one too many times in this hallway, and now I'm back on the previous floor. And another time-wasting puzzle to get back to it. The battles are also not great. I know some people may argue that it's fine, that the battles are pretty easy and fast to mash through, but personally, I more so just lament the fact that there's zero depth to any of the combat, at all. I wasn't expecting masterclass RPG combat here or anything, but it did still disappoint me a bit, I think I would be able to overlook it a bit more if the encounter rate wasn't so egregious. I know that high encounter rates are a plague that curse so many old games in general, but good god, it felt like this game put me the ringer sometimes with just how often I take one singular step and BAM! A fight. Chill, man. Come on. The one silver lining with it is if you fight enough on a floor, eventually you'll have zero encounters until you move on to another floor, which is good. I appreciate that, especially with some of the bigger floors, but it still kind of sucks major ass. However, that's enough about how I feel about the actual gameplay. I've mentioned this before, but I'll state it here so we're all on the same page. I can usually put up with some truly ass game mechanics if the story or something is good enough to me. Genuinely, how else would I earn the badge of being Rant's 4's biggest defender? However, here comes the big issue. I'm really not the biggest fan of the story either. Now, for the record, I don't think it's the worst story ever created or anything. I do think it has some interesting ideas which I'm able to appreciate, even if the execution of them isn't necessarily the best. For example, I do enjoy having the story revolve around your progression in the Toshin tournament. It means there's always a constant goal to work towards and, in theory, could prevent too many low moments in the story, That's cool. The twist surrounding the purpose of the tournament itself is also fairly interesting. Yora is kind of a villain to think about, and I did feel something for his daughters in the final segment due to how honestly tragic and unlucky their existences are. In general, I can buy into the vibe present in the last few hours of the game. You know, stuff like having to confront the Alexander, the ultimate Toshin, and trying to understand what the hell is going on, his tie with Kimiko, experiencing the overall twist firsthand, watching Custom get fucking captured and somewhat tortured, being forced to deal with all the goddamn insta-kill Angel Knights, how honestly unstoppable Yura feels at first, blah 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 blah. It's honestly not bad. My biggest problem with it all is that, while yeah, there are cool ideas sprinkled here and there, I never felt a deep attachment to the story due to, well, all the characters felt a bit too bland for me. I guess there's some neat one-off things like, oh, I don't know, having to kill Poe, having to fight Kimiko with the demon sword possessing her. Curry and Shuri are pretty fun together. And, I guess Custom has quirky dialogue at times. Overall, I guess my biggest gripes with it was that there were like zero notable dynamics between any of the characters for me, and Custom has nowhere near the same amount of charm or personality as Rance to carry a plot like this. I know comparing like 95% of protagonists ever to Rance will end poorly for them, because, I mean, you can't expect for them to be the greatest protagonist of all time. But I'm sure you guys get what I'm trying to say here. As I was thinking about this game, I was trying to decipher why I enjoyed the protagonist of its sequel so much more. And, well, granted, that game is just generally much better written to me. A huge point in its favor is how many memorable, fun, and interesting dynamics Seed has with the cast of the game. Like, what the hell does Custom even have? Still at home? Cool, I guess? Now, obviously, I didn't go into this game expecting for it to be an absolute masterpiece in storytelling or character writing. But I guess I just expected slightly too much from it due to how, even in the early classic Rance entries, I already enjoyed the characters a lot. Well, I guess that's my bad. Anyway, I will admit that I am fairly negative on this game, but I would like to end on a somewhat positive note. For one, this game is fairly short, and I wouldn't consider it like actually the worst game I've ever played or anything. There are way worse things that I would reluctantly rather play Toushin Toshi 1 over any of those. I think going through games like this does genuinely have some merit. I do really enjoy experiencing the history and progression of a series for myself. Seeing how they incorporated elements from this in Rance games that came out so many years later is honestly super fascinating. In a way, it kind of gave me a newfound appreciation for the Rance series and the brains behind it. That kind of validated my time with the game by itself. I will admit though, it helps when you have a completely normal and functional brain like mine, which continues to erase all of my knowledge from school or my day-to-day life to retain Rance lore and tidbits. Would I ever actively recommend someone to play this game? Well, I do think it's honestly worthwhile to experience it at least once in your life, right? Especially due to how it expands on the Rance universe. That's really cool. And as we'll get to soon, the sequel is genuinely incredible, which is kind of like further validation to push through it, I guess. But, well, I will admit, it definitely feels more like a game I enjoy for its novelty and kind of what it represents in Alisoft's history, rather than its actual quality or fun factor, which, is unfortunate. However, folks, our era of negativity is over. As I've alluded to already, I really loved Toushin Toshi too. A lot. Going into it, I heard about its reputation as being genuinely incredible, arguably rating as I+II's best pre-Kichiko game, and just generally one of their best games ever. And you know what? I'll hit you with the immediate truth nuke. I actually agree with this sentiment. I know, something that can actually beat my bias for Rants 3 and 4. An unbelievable concept. This game is such an upgrade over Toushin Toshi 1, it's actually insane to me. Since I started with discussion of the gameplay of Toushin Toshi 1, let me start with the gameplay of this game. For starters, while the gameplay loop of enter tournament, explore and prepare for the next round, win, repeat, is of course similar to how it was in the first game, everything just flows so much better here. Beyond, of course, the story and characters being much more fun to follow, I think this feeling just stems from many positive decisions made surrounding its game design. The battle system and mechanics are much more interactive and fun to mess with here. I'm not going to try and preach to you that this is secretly the pinnacle of RPG combat or anything like that, but they incorporate enough elements to make it consistently pretty fun. Finding enemies' weaknesses is fun to give yourself an edge in combat, but I never felt it overly trivializes everything, at least prior to the Crystal Ring. The various buffs and special moves you'll unlock are similarly pretty enjoyable to mess with, and due to the combat being actually, somewhat memorable, it made the feeling of unlocking new skills via chests or other things like the angel absorptions actually be fairly exciting. Something else I enjoy a lot, which ties in both the narrative and the gameplay, is the choices you can make throughout the game. While Sin isn't the biggest impact on a gameplay front, I think narratively it's still a pretty interesting addition when considering how it reflects on Seed's, morality, I guess. Plus, it does show itself in how some characters you may not be able to have H scenes with or interact with in a terrible way if you don't have Sin at all, or maybe some options are available if you do have Sin. I don't know, it's just kinda neat. For one major choice, not particularly related to Sin, my friend and I decided to go with joining the Hanny cult purely because it sounded hilarious. And you know what? It was. All hail the King Hanny, folks. Please take my money and EXP every fight. It did mean we never got to, properly meet Kuraya. So if you're wondering why I will be suspiciously quiet about her in this video, well, there you go. Anyway, while a decent amount of choices boil down to just have sex with a girl and probably ruin her life in some way, or be a good person with the only reward for committing is some CGs, I still think that the fact that Seed can even, consider committing those acts in the first place is still pretty neat for his characterization. My favorite segment of choices comes towards the end of the game, involving the various angels you interact with. While those follow a similar idea to what I just mentioned, the big difference here is the power-ups from absorbing the angels are all really cool. More stats per level, immunity to fire, doubling your SP total, gaining more of it per turn, effectively trivializing the mechanic? Don't mind if I do. Obviously, while none of these are literally required to beat the game or anything, these upgrades were enticing enough to me that some extra blood on my hands was a worthy price to pay. I'll admit it was kinda thrilling to engage with the evil choices. It kind of made me wish there were more moments like this where the evil choice was combined with more upgrades to make sitting slightly more tempting of an option at other points. But hey, first of all, I'll just take what we can get. And second of all, it kind of does mean you can't just be super evil purely for the love of the game, and I can kind of respect that. But that's enough of that. You know, the gameplay mechanics are all well and good, but I want to ramble about the characters and the story. That's why I wanted to make this video in the first place. As I alluded to in the Toushin Toshi 1 section, one of the aspects that makes this game far more interesting to me narratively is the wonderful cast of characters here, alongside their various subplots. For starters, Seed is a lot more amusing to follow as a protagonist. This is partially due to himself playing a bit more into the silly loser role, which I'll admit it, I kind of fuck with that heavily. But But since he gets to form actual relationships with others, and the cast of large get to have actual personalities, he bounces off of everyone extremely well, leading to plenty of, simply put, absolute cinema moments. Let's start with my one true love, Diana. Her dynamic with Seed is just fucking hilarious the entire time. I love how she's like, hey Seed, don't lose in the tournament. I am betting my entire life on you. Ain't no pressure though, we're chill. And he's just like, man, this is awkward as shit. I would chuckle every time Seed would point out that she's cheering loudly in the crowd for his success. Her adventurous personality, how she would spawn in all these crazy dungeons and places for the sake of money. And best of all, how she, and I quote, needs to Seed to make her smart enough to decipher an ancient ass language because she only becomes smarter during like, she's just the absolute best, man. Every moment of her on screen is genuinely perfection. While, for the sake of my image, I present myself as #1 Diana stan, I must confess that I am simply obsessed with Hazuki too. Her relationship with Seed is like the cutest shit of all time. I love how they're both pillars of strength and encourage each other to become stronger. It's just so damn precious. It's simply poetic how Seed embarked to win the Toshin tournament just so he could earn the right to be Hazuki, and then later on, Hazuki enters the tournament herself so that she could prove her own strength and find her way back to him. It's cute! I loved how her journey when Seed is in the Turbo Torture Mansion is presented. How she never lost faith in him, how she understood all of the risks when entering the tournament but still went through with it. And of course, how her winning the entire thing just proves how damn strong she became at by the end. And you guys know me, I'm a big sap for cute couples. Whenever one character is completely willing to die for another, to the point where they are telling the goddamn king of the underworld of the goddamn universe, the Oni king, that she would die for him. I fuck with that shit heavy. It's kind of cinematic that by the end, she returns to being stronger than Seed, even if it's for an admittedly somewhat silly reason. Somewhat similarly, I enjoyed Serena's character and the role she played for Seed's journey. While she wasn't quite as brain rot inducing as the other two girls for me, I loved her a lot. I obviously have to give her immense credit for her actually managing to keep a hold of herself during the entire Turbo Torture Mansion arc. When she stabbed Apros, my jaw actually slammed the floor. It was true fucking cinema, man. In general, this game did a pretty fantastic job with its characters. At least to me, characters like Katsuna and Border, I kind of thought I might write off due to, well, let's just say they're not quite my type. But I'm happy to announce I ended up loving both of them a ton. In particular, I have to give respect to Border being like such a chill bro type character and his funny ass dialogue the entire game. The funniest shit to me was when there would be an obstacle in the dungeon and Seed is like, Border-sama, please help me. And Border's just like, yeah bro, I got you. It was just really amusing to me. Because well, I began to like him once realizing he was low-key just a chill dude. When the big whale guy is terrorizing hell and he's just like, dude, Seed, we are fucked. It just gave me such a big chuckle. His tragic fate really sold me on him as well. You guys know me, I love it when my anime men are just utterly doomed by the narrative. Even the more minor characters in this game are done pretty well. I think they succeed with having the characters for each round, or just the side characters in general, be a lot more interesting than in Toushin Toshi 1. Like Ashika's whole debacle with pretending to be Seed's girlfriend, the whole ninja subplot with Shizuku, Gaji, and Suzuya, Ketchup's casual, yeah, my father is an abusive piece of shit, please buy my things. The tragedy behind Plum, it's all pretty good stuff. Of course, I'm not going to try and pretend that literally every character is perfection. Like, for instance, they might have leaned slightly too hard in having Billness and Xavier be the most hateable characters of all time. I don't really think the, oh my god, it was a plan to help you all along really redeems the illness, but to each their own, I guess. But I can enjoy how, like, cartoonishly evil Xavier is. Does make the feeling of killing him pretty cathartic, which, you know, that's pretty good. And plus, it does also show how far Seed was willing to go for Hazuki, which I can similarly enjoy a lot. As I'm sure you could tell by now, I just really enjoyed the story in this game. While it does follow somewhat similar beats to the first game, where you enter the tournament, you have all this drama, and then you eventually go to the twist of the tournament being used for evil reasons, it felt a lot more engaging due to the aforementioned peak character rating and dialogue. Plus, I do enjoy how the everything is fucking horrible segment of the game is just much more expanded on and just generally a lot more interesting to experience. While the twist itself isn't that shocking, I do think knowing sort of what to expect from the first game kind of added to the overall vibe, I guess, of it being revealed. Like, as soon as Seed and Serena were eating dinner of Apros and that haunting music kept playing, I just knew they were absolutely fucked. It was great. Genuinely, my only complaint about this part of the game had nothing to do with the writing itself. It was a singular gameplay mechanic. On paper, I do enjoy the idea of making Seed succumb to the Angel Eater rejection symptoms, whatever the hell, and forcing him to commit acts he deeply, deeply hates. But resetting floor progress and puzzles was admittedly very frustrating. Now, not every puzzle got reset. It was mainly just a floor or two where it was really frustrating, but still. In particular, the segment where you rescued Dallas is definitely extended by like 20 minutes or something ridiculous due to those stupid mini-bosses that speed up time, force the rejection scene, and send you back to the mansion, leaving you to crawl all the way back to where you were. And it couldn't have just been one mini-boss. Nuh-uh-uh, that'd be too good for you. Fight like 4 more. I understand that, like, narratively, it shows how much time is progressing, which leads to why Hazuki would embark on her journey, you know, yada yada yada. But surely there could have been a way to accomplish that without padding the time spent on the final floor to such an extreme extent. But I digress. Outside of this one mechanic, I never really came across with any big issues with the game, both narratively and mechanically. Progression in this game makes a lot of sense. It never really felt that insane to figure out what to do, where to go, you know, all that good stuff. Which, for an I+II game in the 90s, I'll admit it, that's pretty impressive. All the boss fights go pretty hard. The music goes hard, the art style goes extremely hard, and even the UIs, quality of life, etc. feel surprisingly advanced for their time. While my friend and I did refer to a guide from time to time just to make sure we didn't, like, accidentally soft block ourselves due to the warning at the beginning of the game, it never felt truly necessary to progress, which is pretty good. I should mention that, of course, the game ends on a pretty great note too. The final ZGs are just so precious to me. I haven't played through enough I+II games to make, like, a general I+II character tier list or something like that. But if I were to combine characters from this game and the Rant series, characters like Diana, Hazuki, Seed would all rank extremely high. Surely this illustrates just how much I enjoyed everyone. Overall, I just really adored this game. After how much I disliked Toushin Toshi 1, I had some deep doubts of this actually being a good game, let alone reigning as one of I+I's best games, period. But I was pleasantly surprised to see it actually surpass those expectations. I'm genuinely so glad I went through this game. If you watched this video and, for whatever reason, haven't played Toushin Toshi yet, you should give it a go. I know my opinion on the first game is very sour, but you never know, you might personally enjoy it a lot more than I did. And the second game is just fantastic. I think it's a worthwhile experience for everyone. It even offers plenty of additional Rance lore. Like, what more could you want, right? Well, that concludes everything I wanted to ramble about here. Sorry that this isn't structured the best. I just wanted to have a video kind of just documenting my thoughts on these games because, I don't know, it's kind of hard to find discussion of it, so I don't know. Here it goes. I hope you found my thoughts somewhat interesting to listen to. I would like to mention that, yes, I am aware of the Toushin Toshi 3 fan translation, and I am eagerly awaiting for it to be completed. It's definitely among my most anticipated games. Like, I check for updates every week. I promise I'm dedicated, guys. Needless to say, I will be there the instant it drops. Who knows, maybe I'll make a video about it whenever it comes out. So, well, yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Do all the fun YouTube things. Please leave a like, a comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I promise I read through everything and treasure it all from the bottom of my heart. And I love all support. It means everything to me. Follow my Twitter for banger retweets, but also video updates. Or, just any of my other socials down in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you around.